Hello, thank you. Hello, New Orleans. Hello. Great to be here from the UK, land of royal babies, Brexit, and emotional awkwardness. So can I just ask who was here at the earlier talk? Okay, thanks. No, that's loyal. Suckers for more punishment. Forgive me. I'm just going to introduce myself a bit more for the people who who weren't there. I'm originally an actor, writer, director. This is me in Mission Impossible 1, stealing the show at the end of the film. No idea who that other guy is in the picture. Don't know what happened to him. So I started off as an actor, but I got more and more into social media, building a following on Twitter by doing jokes and political comments and stuff. But I think that people still, although I think, well, you know, they follow me for the jokes, I think a lot of people follow me because they think I'm actually David Schwimmer from Friends, like this person here, another example there. Loved you as Ross in Friends. Please tell me there'll be a reunion. And just to remind you, I never tell them I'm not David Schwimmer from Friends, because this is the first learning is be shallow, every follower counts. But I do think that hopefully people follow me because of the jokes and the politics. So what I've done is I now have, I write jokes. Here's one of the first tweets that I did actually when Lance Armstrong admitted that he was a drugs cheat a few years ago. So I brought this up. Lance Armstrong isn't even the worst offender in cycling history. Look at this guy, what the hell was he on? And added this picture here. I'm glad it still works. So I went on then to found That Lot, which is a company. So I create content for social media, so from tweets and videos and Facebook posts and anything that you see on social. But as Brendan mentioned, I still write movies, so The Death of Stalin, which I think is still in movie theatres across the country. So if you take one thing away and go and see Death of Stalin, I will have succeeded. But what I want to share with you today, I want to show you the funny. And for me, the funny comedy works. A lot of what I say works whether you're writing a movie or whether you're writing a tweet. I will focus more on social just because that's where I operate most now. But it works for videos, images, not. So this is show me the funny. So the first element of comedy, and the first thing, in fact, of all art, the core of most art, all art, I'd say, is the element of surprise. You need to have surprise. So as in this GIF here, there he is. It's not a lady. So surprise is what you need for a joke to detonate, for a piece of art to detonate, whatever it is. But when we're talking about comedy, here's the example of a joke. 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, floor, and there's the surprise at the end of it. Another example of surprise. New boyfriend is allergic to kitten, so can't keep him. He's ginger and named Tom. Friendly, comes when called. 28-year-olds and works in IT. And so that's the twist at the end of the surprise. So a lot of what comedy does, it leads you down the garden path. It says, come this way, and then suddenly reveals something to you. So that's where good comedy is. Surprise works in images as well. For instance, there's an element of surprise when I say, and you may know this is quite a well-known image of the dog that looks like Samuel L. Jackson. There he is. So again, the laugh comes in the fact that dogs generally look like dogs, but we're led down the garden path. Surprise, he looks like Samuel L. Jackson. Similarly, videos as well. Here's a very short example. I don't know if you've seen it, of the Duck Army. So it's a duck army. So here we go. So it's a guy in a shop, found these ducks. I do love that. So I must stop because I just watched that over and over again and my life slowly slips away. But what's great about that is, again, it's that surprise. It's like, they're ducks. No, they sound like people, and surprise works. So once we know that we have to surprise, what elements are there? What elements are there to creating good comedy? So the first thing is brevity. You want to keep it as short as possible. So here's a joke. Describe yourself in 3 words. Lazy. Bang. It's only really sort of 6 words, and that's powerful, effective as a joke. This is the first joke that I can remember from school. It's a classic. My dog's got no nose. how does it smell terrible? So it's not a great joke, but it is a joke because it's as brief as it possibly can be. When you look at this version of it, for instance, my dog's got no nose. I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like a very unfortunate situation. Blah, blah, blah. For instance, he or she, I don't know, blah, 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 must have a lot of trouble smelling things. How does it smell terrible? Is not a joke because it's too wordy. And I am an obsessive as a comedy writer. I'm an obsessive at how can you trim it down. That's why writing on Twitter has been good for me as a training course because you're constantly trying to trim it down. So here's a great joke from Tim Vine, crime in multi-story car parks. That's wrong on so many different levels. So he does lots of puns, he's English stand-up. But when I see that, I think something bothers me about it, and I think you don't need the word different. So that's wrong on so many levels. For me now, that's a better, more effective joke. And comedy, a lot of it is about minuscule changes, these little differences that can help really achieve big things. And so brevity also works, excuse me, also works when you're looking at images. You want clarity. You want to strip away as much as possible. So instead of stripping away words, you want to strip away things that distract from the image. Here's the Samuel L. Jackson thing. It's got 2 + 2 = 4. It's got other jokes on it, but it's not funny. It's not as funny because there's too much going on. So when I'm looking at images and I want them to be funny, then I strip it away because often the temptation is, and in joke telling as well, to do 2 great jokes at the same time, but actually 2 great jokes cancel each other out and you end up with nothing. Same with video. I check that in a particular frame, it's all clear and crisp and focused on the joke I want to tell. So that's clarity, brevity. The next thing is structure. So there's various things that can help you make a better joke. The first thing is to choose life, choose a job, choose a really good opening. So I'm just going to play this whilst I talk to you. I've taken the sound off it. So this is the opening credits from Deadpool, which I thought was brilliant. It's a great film, but also even in the opening credits, so this is telling you who's in it, a hot chick, a British villain, and so it goes on like that. And what's great about that is that right from the start, you know what the film is going to be like. I worked in film. There's a great director who said that you can tell whether a film's going to be good from its title sequence, and I really believe that. When I see a title sequence that's dull, I think this isn't going to hold me. So the opening of Deadpool is an example of how it's great. Here's a joke. Practical joke idea, all dressed in 8 costumes when Tim Peake, who's an astronaut, gets back. So the British astronaut, he was getting back. We tweeted this from Channel 4, that's one of our accounts. But the practical joke idea, bold, opening in caps, draws them in. So it doesn't matter if it's a film or a tweet, you can still apply the rule of having a strong opening. Rule of 3, that's another one. And obviously, it goes without saying that on Facebook videos or on videos on social, strong openings so essential. The rule of 3, sorry that I'm going so quickly, but there's a lot of stuff to get through. That's a standard comedy thing. Where I did it when I started. I said Brexit, royal baby, and emotional awkwardness. So you set it up nicely. I like this one here. Can't think of anything worse after a night of drinking than waking up next to someone and not being able to remember their name or how you met or why they're dead. So it's like, again, down the garden path, and the rule of 3 really helps with the garden path. So that's the thing that you can use. For joke telling, I see joke telling as like having a setup and a payoff. You want to make this, and it's like when you're serving, your serve will never be good if you don't make the setup brilliant. So that's why clearing as many words as possible, but making the payoff the joke at the end. Incidentally, it's the same when I'm posting a video. Some people, they'll take 3 months on a video, but then the copy doesn't quite set it up perfectly, and you've ruined the serve of the video. So it's always worth thinking about the setup. So always put the payoff at the end. This is a great little tweet I saw. Every time you RT this, a turtle learns Kung Fu. It's from a few years ago. Did very well. But if you phrase this as a turtle learns Kung Fu every time you RT this, for me, that's messy because you haven't got the big punch, the surprise at the end. So it gets messy. That applies in videos, in films, when you break scenes down. So there's this one, for example, from Airplane.
I'm sorry I had to wake you. I'm just looking for a doctor. There's nothing to worry about.
Stewardess, I think the man sitting next to me is a doctor.
Sir, excuse me, sir. I'm sorry I have to wake you. You're a doctor?
That's right.
We have some passengers that are very...
So you see, are you a doctor? And they've given not the visual gag of there, so it's like save it to the end. It wouldn't have worked if we'd had a shot of him beforehand. That wouldn't have been.
I'm sorry I had
as
to
good.
wait.
So structure. What's next? Specificity. The more specific you are, the better, the funnier it is. That's my theory. So I call this the small child's face theory. So if you say it was about the size of a face, quite funny, about the size of a child's face, funnier, and for me, about the size of a small child's face is funniest because you've really, really thought about it. Be very specific. Scranton, where they've set the American office, for me, there's a specificity even in the sound of the name. I mean, it'll have different reverberations for you in America, but it's just that's the specificity. I'm going to say something a bit rude, so apologies there. I think we're all over 18. I've done a lot of work with the people behind Veep and the thick of it, which was the British equivalent. And one of the most famous lines from that is, forgive me, is as useless as a marzipan dildo. And that's the sort of granddad of that is as useless as a chocolate teapot. But that's too obvious. So we've gone very specific. We've gone to a dildo. I now regret bringing this up. But the word marzipan, it's a funny word. It's a thing that connects with childhood. It's just bizarre, the clash of that. So it's that specific detail that makes that so funny. There's a similar sort of thing here. Last night a movie theatre was robbed of $1,000. The thieves took one large bag of popcorn, a combo meal, and a box of Milk Duds. Funny joke, made funnier because of the specificity of Milk Duds. I don't even know what a Milk Dud is, but it's just so specific and a funny sound that it works for me. Okay, next is human truths. If people love relatable comedy, things that they can relate to. Here's a thing that we did for Channel 4, the terrestrial broadcaster. The guy in the background is all of us. And it's just a thing that we spotted, and you could sort of we all relate to it. It was a time where everything was kicking off with Brexit and Trump and everything, and everyone was so angry. And just human relatability, which links to observational humor. Observational humor is so important because it is saying, I understand your life. This is your life. And the sort of surprise is that recognizing someone expressing the way you feel. So here's an example, how to fold a fitted sheet. Hold sheet lengthwise with corner in each hand, fold in half, roll into a ball, call it a dick, shove it in a drawer. So we all sort of recognize it, and that's the thing that we're doing all the time on social, not just on comedy, but as this is a talk on comedy, I've got comedic examples for you. So here's the thing, for instance, that we did for Channel 4 just before Christmas when there was a lot of office parties. So we got a whole load of gifts that made the experience, told a story of going to an office party. Oh, gone too far. Back. There we go. No, is this going to play? It's not going to play. Never mind. We'll spin on. It's really funny. Okay, so let's move on. No worries. So mashups. That is basically a lot of what comedy is taking element A and element B that didn't necessarily fit together, or you didn't see the join, and bringing them together. That could be in a joke like this. Me, I'll see you in a month. Wife, don't forget to write. Me, it's highly unlikely I'd forget such a basic skill, Sharon. Well, what he's done is use the word right as the place where the mashup happens. And that's what happens a lot in puns. I like this one. Update the Force, Luke, Adobe, one Kenobi. Which is both a great mashup and it has that relatability as well, because we're always having to update Adobe. And the best mashups is when something in reality is then mashed with something that you didn't expect from the world. So my favorite subset of all those is lyrics, song lyrics. So there's a brand, I don't know if you have it, Serene malt loaf bread. So serene, 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 serene. I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. I like this one, ice pastry. All right, stop, refrigerate and listen. And have we got any Oasis fans in the US? Any Oasis? Got to come. So I might have to help you with this one, but it was such a brilliant one that I wanted to include it. So I'm going to sing the song that Shawnee referred to. So today is going to be the day that they're going to throw it back to you. Buy now, Prosecco and a wow burlesque show plus a meal for two. Now you can see, that is extraordinary. And it's so funny because the surprise is that's happened in real life, and that he's mashed those two things together. So human truths, very, very good. Very important. Build. Now that's the next thing I want to talk about. You need to build the curve. If you don't build, then people get bored and switch off. And that's incredibly important on social media. If you're putting a video together, you want to keep building, because as soon as there's any hint of plateauing, people will build off. Now, again, another rude word coming up, forgive me, but this is an example of how in joke writing in a sketch, you have to build from Rowan Atkinson.
All right, come on, settle down, please.
So he's a headmaster calling
Answer
out
your
some
names.
names at the start of the day.
Anus,
Sorry about the rude words.
arse bandit, bottom, clitoris. Where are you, clitoris?
So, forgive me for the rudeness, but the reason I put it in there is because he did the first three, okay, and but by the end of the first three, we'd sort of got the message. So with the clitoris word, again, I can't believe I'm saying this on stage. I really haven't thought this through. He needed to push it. So that joke had to develop. It had to be, where are you? It had to be a different joke than just saying funny names.
Right.
Here's a good tweet that I really like because it keeps building. 6 hours since Big Ben fell silent, so the big clock at Houses of Parliament no longer works. No one knows what time it is. The BBC's best guess is 1872. Dinosaurs spotted in Ipswich. Chaos reigns. And you can see how that's a whole story. Each one is a picture, even though it's in a tweet. They keep it moving. They keep the build going, which is what I really like about it. And that, to come back to the Deadpool titles, is why that is so good, because they have all these funny names, a gratuitous cameo, a moody teen, a CGI character, so you're really engaged, and they build them so they do get more and more funny. But also what they do is they build the whole of the credit sequence. So at first you're really close up, you can't see what's going on, and then you can see Deadpool, and then you see more context and more context. So what that is a way of making sure that there's a comedy build and a narrative build, which is a thing that I'm very keen on building into all social media and social media films, like on Facebook, what have you. So just a quick word before I go about how you can put writing together, put jokes together. So I use the sort of evidence board technique, or cloud thinking. So for instance, with the E.T. joke, I would think was cycles, right? What links with cycling? And I would come up with E.T., then there'd be other things. So here's a joke, a little bit of homework for you. Do send me the final joke. So this is in changing a king-size duvets. So this might be what would go on in my head with changing king-size duvet. It's a bit like wrestling. You can get lost in there. You find all sorts of things in there that you didn't know you had. Why is it called king-size? And as you explore, then you come up with hopefully some comedy gold. But if you're not experienced in writing comedy, sometimes it's just good to write things down, and then you see the links, and those hidden mashups can occur to you. So finally, I just want to leave you with a good example of a lot of the things that I've talked about. Relatability, build, mashup. It's just got a lot going for it, this. So this is a thing that was a tweet that these... so this is some football fans, or football hooligans really, from West Ham United Football Club, and they will be waiting for you boys tomorrow, come on you Irons, which is the West Ham. So they're threatening the Everton lads with these weapons. Only someone on Twitter then saw, is he meant to carry something? That the guy at the end isn't carrying anything. And so everyone went to town then, they gave him pizza, there's a fish that they gave him, juggling, and there he is shopping at Lidl's, which is a very cheap shop, and golf sale and stuff. So you got this whole community, and if you saw it in real time, that's what was exciting about social media. There was such a big build going on. Okay, I'm going to leave you with with one final thought, and there are 2 golden rules of comedy. Rule number 1 is always leave your audience wanting more. Thanks very much.